Hey everybody, Tim here. I'll talk if you'll listen. Episode 55, Two Nickels. And we're back. Thank you for hanging out with me yet another week and for another episode. And I don't think this one will take too long because I just want to share some poll results. I want to share something with you that my therapist has shared with me. And I want to check in on you all, see how you're doing, just give you a few updates. Before I dive into this episode, this show, these topics, I do want to increase awareness on something that it's very near and dear to my heart, and that's saving money. A lot of you who have known me for quite some time have known that I had a few red flags pop up in my life. And I was not prepared to handle some of them, and I had to lean on a few close friends in order to kind of get by. And one of the most embarrassing things that I've ever had to do is ask to borrow money, and not just 50 or $20 or something like that. Significant amount of money. I remember having to borrow basically $300 between about three friends, and had to pay three of them back, and one of the three I paid back in interest. Like, I gave them extra money back, and that was one of my wake up calls, and me going, you know what, I never want to do that again. And I slowly but surely tried to go on the path of better financial security or financial maturity, and it's hard. It really, really is. You'll hear about all these different self-help books and programs and courses and all these different things that you can do, and everybody's game plan is different. Everybody's playbook is different. Somebody can tell you that something does or doesn't work. It only does or doesn't work for them. Now, some stuff is obvious, right? Like, hey, you won't get much money in interest if you have a traditional bank account. That's just fact. I'm talking about those things that people have done, like, hey, for me, I put $20 aside each paycheck. Or, hey, for me, I took $50 out of my paycheck and I cashed it and took it to the bank and got 5 rolls of quarters because I know I would never touch it. I've heard every different thing, and everything works differently for different people. And I'm hoping that my experience might touch maybe one or two of you differently. And this is why I'm really, really about pushing Acorns. I talked about Acorns 2 episodes ago, and since then I've included it in the description of each show. So this will make episode number 3. So 3 episodes in a row where you'll see my Acorns link in the description of the show. And let me tell you why I'm so passionate about it. First things first, it was a huge, huge step in the right direction for me because it only cost me $5 to sign up. I just had to take $5 out of my bank account and put that in. And I actually give a lot of credit to an older coworker of mine by the name of Katie. I doubt Katie's listening now, but Katie, one time when I was at her store and I heard her selling something to someone, and it was about a matter of, I forget what it was. It was either getting a screen protector or like insurance or something like, I forget what it was, but it was a minimal cost per month to add that total onto their bill. And it was very, very nominal. I want to say it was like $5 or less. I forget what it was. And one of the things she said to this person was, that's like 2 fewer energy drinks a month that you buy. And I never thought of it that way. I never quantified the amount of money that I was spending on a specific thing that I was spending it on. I always looked at money as like, not necessarily this arbitrary thing, but this is going to sound really, really weird. So hopefully you all get where I'm coming from. It's tough to really quantify $5. It's tough to really quantify $10. It's tough to quantify $100. Sometimes that can be really, really tough to quantify. All you hear or see or think about is that it's money. That's the only thing you think about. Like, oh, it's money. Even if it's like, hey, they're taking $5 out of your check for X, Y, or Z. The only thing that you hear is, I'm losing money. I'm taking $5 away. But when I heard Katie say 2 energy drinks, and I can't help but to think, like, I jump for joy whenever I see energy drinks on sale, 2 for $5 or something like that. And for her to phrase it and frame it that way really helped to add things to perspective for me. So when I started the Acorns account, and you open it with $5, that's how you open it. And from there, you can do a few different things. And what I did is I decided to do $5 reoccurring every Friday. And I decided to up that recently. And you make investments sometimes. Every now and again, I made, bigger donations as I got more comfortable. But basically, all it is a savings account that you open up, essentially. And I go into detail a few episodes ago. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the best way and simplest way I can put it is, it's money that will make money more than your savings account or bank account will. And you'll be thankful in the long run, especially because you won't even get to see the money. So I'm asking everybody listening right now, can you afford one less cup of coffee a week? Can you afford, 2 fewer energy drinks a week? If you can, I highly encourage you, stop what you're doing, pause the episode right now, click on that Acorns link, get started with just $5, and then your savings will explode from there. And I know we live in a microwave generation. We want that $5 to turn into $500 in 30 days. That's not going to happen. But here's what this is the point I really, really want to drive home. And I'll say this every episode if I have to. You're earning like half of a percentage in interest, or half of a penny, I should say, in interest on your bank account right now. So if you have a savings account right now, and it's not like a special one, like a high interest savings account, or, a CD or anything weird like that, if you don't already have like a 401k, or even if you do, hey, you can never really save too much money, right? If you just have, but for dozens and dozens and dozens of you who just have a normal old bank account, and your money is just sitting in there, you're not saving money. Like, simply having a savings account is not enough. If that money is not making you money, if that money is not adding to your pot, so to speak, it's useless. Think about inflation. The money that you're putting in your bank account 10 years from now is only going to have but so many extra dollars in it. And that money isn't even going to be worth what it's worth today, because it's not worth what it was worth 10 years ago. I'll tell you that much. So I highly encourage you to go and make this account. I'm thinking about, as I improve in my video editing skills, I'm thinking about posting a video on social media, and maybe even on YouTube, about my Acorns journey. And I've made, I want to say, 20, 30 bucks. I forget what the number is, but I've made way more in interest in this account, and dividends and other things. Like, I earn dividends every month. And this is me being fully transparent with you all. So some of the dividends that I earn from different companies that I invest in, it's like 3 pennies. But that's more in interest that I would have earned at my bank account. Actually, and I have a credit union. So I want to put that in perspective for you all. Me earning 3 pennies in dividends in my in my Acorns account, it's more than I would have earned in interest in my banking or savings accounts. It even got to the money where I took all the money out of my savings and I just added it to my Acorns account. And I don't even have a savings account anymore. I have my primary checking account, and all the money that I had or would have put in my savings, I just pumped into my Acorns account, and I'm better for it. I have literally the most money that I've ever saved in my life since turning my life around financially, thanks to Acorns. In small part due to some other things too. But I can't tell you how passionate I am about this. Now, Acorns is not paying me to promote them or anything like that. This is purely because I want you to have an opportunity to just save money. Especially now, we don't know. Think about all those times you just didn't feel like cooking and you went and dropped 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 bucks on takeout or something. That money could have went into your savings and you be better for it. Trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. But enough with the boring stuff. I appreciate you all listening. But again, I'm really passionate about it. Um, if you haven't already, again, pause this right now. If you're listening on YouTube, pause the video. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, your podcasting app, pause it, click on that Acorns link. It'll take you 5 minutes to set up an account. And I want to say, I think you get $5 for free if you use my link. So there you go. That's a part of the job already done for you. So it's really, really cool. It really gets your foot in the door in investing. I know for me, very recently, not even that long ago, I want to say about 2.5 years ago, I had never really knew what stocks were. And when people were trading stocks and investing in the stock market and all this and all that, and my friends all was like, hey, here are the stocks that I own and yada, yada, yada. I had no idea what it was. It's really intimidating to not know certain things as an adult because other adults kind of look down their nose at you. Luckily, I have really, really cool friends who are open to share the knowledge. One friend that immediately comes to mind is Charles, and I feel like all of you know Charles by now because I talk about him so often, but I can't tell you how near and dear he is to my heart because he's one of those friends. He has stocks and bonds and all that junk before I did, and he doesn't think himself better than you to explain something to you. If you just don't know, especially if you have the type of relationship that we have. But hey, not all of us have a Charles. Or even if we do have a Charles, not all of us have that relationship with that Charles to, express our ignorance. So I highly encourage you to get the Acorns account and you'll be the better for it. Trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. That said, I wanted to post something and I'm going to do this a little bit more frequently. And I wanted to post something to you all. And I did it yesterday. I'm trying to decide how long I want to have these up. If I want to have these up, see, I do my episodes a week apart, sometimes 2 weeks apart. So I don't want to post something every day. But I know when you post something for a week, you kind of lose engagement a little bit. So I am going to try my best to be as engaging as possible, and maybe I'll always run them on a certain day, so that way you know what to expect. So I think what I'm going to start doing is running these polls on Friday and Saturday, maybe, with the show being recorded on Sunday. That way everybody can get their responses in beforehand. Versus if I post something on Monday, it'll kind of get buried on the news feed. And on top of that, I'll probably be posting after I post the poll, so it'll get pushed further and further and further down. So that said, I think I might stick to Friday or Saturday, so keep an eye out for that on all the social media. But I posted a poll about music, and I'm going to share the results towards the end of the show. But I thought it was really, really cool. So basically, I went for a walk on Saturday, and usually when I go for a walk or even when I'm just hanging out around the house, I'll listen to music. And even when I'm playing certain games, I'll listen to music. Games that don't require me to listen or actually hear the game, I'll play some music. And the music I'll play, it'll be different, especially even with karaoke. Like, what do I feel like singing? What am I in the mood for? And it's times during those moments where I realize, like, wow, my music palette is the most diverse that it's ever been. And I sometimes reflect on that. And yesterday I reflected really, really deeply. And I thought to myself, how did I get here? How did I get here? How did I get to listening to pop, rock? I still hate country. I cannot stand country. Obviously hip hop and R&B because culturally that's what I was raised on. I listen to a lot of lo-fi beats and stuff now, a lot of not necessarily techno. I can't think of the genre it falls into right now. It's kind of like electronica, kind of. But I listen to all these different genres, and I appreciate music way more than I did. Now, a lot of that just comes with maturity, right? You learn to appreciate music as an art rather than music as an activity the older you get and the more life experience that you have. But a lot of it has to come from what you're exposed to and what you're willing to listen to. A lot of us are very narrow minded when it comes to certain things, and you could miss out on your favorite song of all time, your favorite artist of all time, your favorite album of all time if you only stick to what you know. And it kind of got me thinking about alternative rock, slash rock, and country. Now, country doesn't apply to me, but I know it applies to many of you and some of my peers. We didn't grow up on that. I grew up in Philly. I grew up in Germantown specifically, and I grew up in a dense urban environment. And when you're in these primarily black neighborhoods, you listen to a lot of oldies, a lot of rhythm and blues, a lot of soulful songs, and a lot of hip hop and rap. Jazz gets sprinkled in every now and again. I can't really think of who to give credit for the jazz. I want to say my mom, but I could be wrong. But for my area in Philly, and I'm probably about to take you all down memory lane, but the local jazz network in Philly was WJJZ. Radio station was 106.1 FM station. And that tone is stuck in our heads forever. WJJZ 106.1. I'll never forget that. Love it. And yeah, jazz, but yeah, it was jazz, hip hop, rap were primarily the genres that I was exposed to. And for me, it wasn't until middle school where I discovered rock for the first time that I actually liked. So I posted this poll. I posted the poll on Twitter and I posted it on Facebook. I did not post it on Instagram because I realized for Instagram and Facebook polls, they have to be yes or no questions. They can't be like the actual poll. So I posted the poll on Twitter first. And if you're familiar with Twitter polls, then you can actually have more than one option. It's actual a legit like poll, like multiple choice. But with Facebook and Instagram, it's yes or no. So once I posted it on Facebook to see how it actually worked, I decided not to post it on Instagram, but I am going to change that for the next poll. But I posted a poll and I was curious. For me, I was exposed to rock that I actually liked for the first time in middle school. I posted a poll on Twitter asking, when were you first exposed? And this is primarily if you grew up listening to hip hop and rap, but it could apply to other areas and other people too. But the first time you were exposed to rock, and I put slash country too, and you actually enjoyed it, how was it and or where were you? And the four options were middle school slash junior high for you suburban folk, high school, college, or if it was through a friend or a social function. Those were the four choices. Now on Facebook, I simply posed the question, were you exposed to rock slash country that you actually enjoyed before high school? And I left it at that. So I'm going to share those results at the end of the episode. And I was shocked. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty surprised at the results. And I was really surprised at who participated and voted. I got various different age groups, from my peers to people old enough to be my father and mother, so to speak. And I thought that was really cool to get that level of participation. I will say this. You all surprise me every week. And I don't know if that's just the humility, and not wanting to expect too much out of the show. I mean, we're not talking the Tonight Show here. This is a podcast that, yes, I'm passionate about and I love. and I would love to do this full time. But this is a podcast from some nobody in Philly. And when I post something on social media, the engagement that I get from you all, whether it's Jaleesa texting me or hitting me up on Instagram and giving me her feedback about the latest episode or what I should do, or getting on my case about merchandise. And don't worry, Jaleesa, it is coming. Whether it's some other peers telling me about how I should get a website going or maybe even start a blog, how it's people like Asher who have really been passionate about subscribing on YouTube. And Asher has commented on every episode or everything that I put out on YouTube. And Asher, you're the bomb. Shout out to Asher. So I will say you all humble me so much. The level of participation that I get from you all is astounding. Now, that's not necessarily to knock any of you who just enjoy to sit back and listen and you take it in and you keep it rolling. I appreciate you all as well. But for those of you who have subscribed or followed me on Spreaker and comment on Spreaker, for those of you who have subscribed on YouTube and comment and engage on YouTube, for those of you who follow me on Twitter and Instagram and you hit me up in the DMs and give me feedback and advice or just general comments about the show. For those of you who participated in the gift card giveaway to celebrate 50 episodes, I really do appreciate you all. So I was very surprised at the engagement from the polls. I'm hoping to get even more engagement. And as you all see, I'm constantly trying to develop some ideas. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Like a poll isn't revolutionary. But at the end of the day, I want to keep you all engaged and I really enjoy your feedback. So I want to create more opportunities for you to give me feedback. So stick around to the end of the episode. You'll hear the results of the poll. Really cool. And we'll post next week's poll on Friday or Saturday. And it'll be on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So pick your poison. I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to come back with some interesting information that my couples counselor has shared with me. I'll be back right after this. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around through the break. A brother gotta pay some bills. So, if you have not been living underneath a rock and you've been tuning in faithfully, you know how big I am on mental health. You know how big I am on counseling, therapy, psychology, etc., etc. And more specifically, how I am about maintaining your mental aptitude. Your brain, your mental capacity, just like anything else, if it isn't cared for, if it isn't nurtured, it will go down the drain. We take care of our bodies. We go to the gym. We eat healthy. We go on diets. If we're are dancers, we practice dancing. If we are performers, we practice our craft, our performance. We practice our presentations before a big presentation that we have to give at work or school or other areas. We need to also practice and maintain better mental health. And I have shared with you all that I am in couples counseling. And I think it's so important because there are a lot of things wrong with all of us. And even if you are aware of those things, you may not realize how they are coming out, how evident they are in your interactions with other people. And not necessarily those that you are intimate with, but just friends, coworkers, family. And I think it's really important to seek out counseling, especially if you're in a romantic relationship, before a problem happens. Now, a lot of times we seek out counseling as a reactionary thing. We get it to fix, quote unquote, something, as opposed to getting it whenever there is, quote unquote, nothing wrong happening. The reason couples counseling was important for me was first things first. I think the most important thing that any of us have is health. Health is the single most important thing that you can have because it literally impacts everything else. You can't be a good father without health. You can't be a good sailor without health. You can't be a good engineer without health. You can't be a good athlete, obviously, without health. And health is really, really important. And again, we focus that area, that health area, strictly towards physical. But there's spiritual health, there's mental health, there's emotional health. And that was number one for me. First and foremost, health is very, very important. Second thing was the cost. There would have been a copay of about $25, but luckily through my insurance, the copay is now $0. So therapy is literally no cost to me whatsoever. And that's awesome. Now, I know not too many people can be in that situation, especially depending on the insurance provider that you have, or if you're employed, or who your insurance policy is through, things of that nature. But that was very convenient. The fact that the copay initially was very low and then eventually was non-existent was a huge, huge factor, a huge, huge influence on why I went this route. And lastly, the last area for me is at the end of the day, the only thing we can do, I know we like to say 110%, 150%, 200%. The reality of it is all of us have a capacity and we can't exceed that capacity. And we only can give 100%. We only can ever give 100%. And to give 100% is the best you can do. Nothing less than the best. And I told myself, and I was very honest with my girlfriend, at the end of the day, I want to do everything that I can do and that I know how to do to keep this relationship afloat. Even if it's sailing with no problem. I want to do what I have to do to maintain that happiness and maintain that positivity and better equip the ship for those storms, those lightning storms, those heavy, heavy winds, so to speak. And if something doesn't work out, it'll be easier for any of us, I think, whether you didn't get the job, you didn't get the promotion, you didn't get the girl guy that you were going after, you didn't get that place that you wanted. If you did everything that you could do and you gave 100%, I feel like all of us can go to bed a little bit and rest a little bit easier knowing that we gave it our all. So with all of that in mind, we got a couples counselor, and it's been going pretty well. I would say that we've discovered a lot about ourselves, and you can't fix something or maintain something if you don't even know that it exists. So speaking for me personally, I knew there were certain things that were present in the way I viewed life and what I had to go through as a kid and as a teen, but I never made the connections between those experiences and me as an adult and how they are manifesting themselves now. So I thought it was really, really cool to explore those experiences with an objective eye, a professional eye, and to really open up the dialogue, not only just with my therapist, but with my girlfriend too, because what'll happen is we'll sit down, we'll have these dialogues, the therapist will open up certain lines of questioning, and afterwards my girlfriend and I will continue that dialogue, whether it's immediately after the session or it's later on in the week or whenever we have some time, we talk about it. And I think that's really, really important. If you can't openly and comfortably have a conversation with the person that you're sharing a bed with, there's a bigger problem than maybe you're willing to admit, because that's really, really crucial. I don't want therapy as a constant thing. I don't want it to just be for 60 minutes once a week. I wanted to continue. So in order for that to happen, my girlfriend and I need to have a discussion, a productive one, or at least open dialogue, at least, at minimum, after the session is over. So that way we can start to just understand. Again, not everything is meant to be resolved. Not everything is a problem. But I think understanding is constant, and it's something that should happen all of the time. And if you aren't willing to understand yourself, and you shouldn't expect to even begin to understand the person that you're with. I think the better you understand yourself, the better you can understand the person that you're with. I think that's really, really, there's a strong correlation between the two. So my therapist, I like her, and she shares some things every now and again. What I think is pretty cool. It's not necessarily homework, but it's like, hey, here's some supplementary information that you should definitely take a look at because it helps the therapy. It really, really does, and it helps to construct a system of how to conduct yourself in a conversation. I think it's really, really important because no one ever gives us any rules on how to have these discussions, right? We kind of just have them. So to open up the blueprint, so to speak, and say, okay, here's how you have a conversation. Here's how you give feedback. And even if you don't like it, you can tweak it. At least you have a blueprint to go off of. So that said, she sent something over to me. I started to read it, but I thought that I wanted to share it all with you all. So I have not read it in its entirety, and I want to share it with you all. And hopefully this will encourage you to have a better dialogue with the people in your life, more specifically any romantic partners, but also will maybe help you to see the value in therapy. So that said, I'm going to bring up this article. Bear with me for a second here. Okay, so this is what she sent me. It's on the Gottman Institute, and that's Gottman Institute. It's a research-based approach to relationships, kind of like a blog, I guess, so to speak. This article in particular is kind of dated. It's from 2013, but it's still relevant. It's very, very relevant. And it's from a woman by the name of Ellie. I'm going to butcher your last name, Ellie. It's spelled Listitsa. So Lisitsa, I guess. But it's titled The Four Horsemen: Criticism, Contempt, Defensiveness, and Stonewalling. And it begins. Being able to identify the four horsemen in your conflict discussions is a necessary first step to eliminating them and replacing them with healthy, productive communication patterns. The four horsemen of the apocalypse is a metaphor depicting the end of times in the New Testament. So it's a biblical term. For those of you who are a fan of the X-Men, you can also apply it to that too. Same concept there. They describe conquest, war, hunger, and death, respectively. We use this metaphor to describe communication styles that, according to our research, can predict the end of a relationship. And it starts with criticism. The first horseman is criticism. Criticizing your partner is different than offering a critique or voicing a complaint. The latter two are about specific issues, whereas the former is an ad hominem attack. It is an attack on your partner at the core of their character. In effect, you are dismantling their whole being when you criticize. The important thing is to learn the difference between expressing a complaint and criticizing. Here's what a complaint sounds like. I was scared when you were running late and didn't call me. I thought we had agreed that we would do that for each other. Here's what a criticism sounds like. You never think about how your behavior is affecting other people. I don't believe you are that forgetful. You're just selfish. You never think of others. You never think of me. If you found that you and your partner are critical of each other, don't assume your relationship is doomed to fail. The problem with criticism is that when it becomes pervasive, it paves the way for the other, far deadlier horsemen to follow. It makes the victim feel assaulted, rejected, and hurt, and often causes the perpetrator and victim to fall into an escalating pattern where the first horseman reappears with greater and greater frequency and intensity, which eventually leads to contempt. I just want to comment on that first. I think that's really cool that they distinguish what a complaint versus criticism sounds like. And I can't tell you how many times in my relationship specifically, or just from hearing stories that my friends would tell me, that their partner attacks their character, or their partner is complaining again about different things. And people are much more receptive to the former, to a complaint, because now you're attacking the issue. And the example that they gave here about, I was scared when you were running late and didn't call me. I thought we had agreed that we would do that for each other. You're attacking the issue. You're saying, hey, here's the thing that we agreed on. Can we talk about what do we need to do to fix this? But in the criticism piece, which I will say, I do think this is necessary, so I will disagree to a degree with the article here. I think that sometimes people need to be told about themselves, and if you can't accept criticism from the person that you're with, maybe there's a bigger issue going on there. But I do agree to an extent here that when you attack a person's character, they're much less receptive to what you're saying, because then it automatically leads them to be defensive. So in this case, the article says criticism leads to contempt, and that's the second piece here. So let's start here. Contempt. The second horseman is contempt. When we communicate in this state, we are truly mean. We treat others with disrespect, mock them with sarcasm, ridicule, call them names, and mimic or use body language such as eye rolling and scoffing. The target of contempt is made to feel despised and worthless. Contempt goes far beyond criticism. While criticism attacks your partner's character, contempt assumes a position of moral superiority over them. Here's an example that they gave. You're tired? Cry me a river. I've been here with the kids all day, running around like mad to keep this house going, and all you do when you come home from work is flop down on that sofa like a child and play those idiotic video games. I don't have time to deal with another kid. Could you be any more pathetic? Research even shows that couples that are contemptuous of each other are more likely to suffer from infectious illnesses such as colds, the flu, etc., than others due to weakened immune systems. Contempt is fueled by long, simmering negative thoughts about the partner, which come to a head when the perpetrator attacks the accused from a position of relative superiority. Most importantly, contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. It must be eliminated. That is huge. I did not know that. Like I said, I started to read this article and then I stopped. I had no idea that contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. And this is a research blog, like the Gottman Institute, so I'm sure they have data to back it up. This article probably won't go into it because that's not what the article is for. But that's deep. I think it's really important. And when you're speaking from a place of superiority, like you're better than the person that you're with, that's a huge problem. Because when you feel that you're better than them in a specific area, and we're not talking like competitively, like, oh, you can't beat me in this. That's different. We're talking better than them as a person. Like, oh, I'm better than you because I make more than you. Or I'm better than you because I come from this background. Or I'm better than you because my name is on the lease. This is my house. It comes off a certain way. I agree, contempt is very dangerous, should be eliminated, and I'm not surprised that it's the single greatest predictor of divorce. Not surprised at all. especially when you hear those divorce stories about how the other person felt like they were better than the other person. Okay, so we just to recap here, criticism leads to contempt, and they have contempt leading to defensiveness. Now I have a close relationship with defensiveness, and I'm going to get into what this article says about defensiveness right after this. Okay, welcome back on the other side of the break. So, defensiveness, the third of the four horsemen. The third horseman is defensiveness, and it is typically a response to criticism. We've all been defensive, and this horseman is nearly omnipresent when relationships are on the rocks. When we feel unjustly accused, we fish for excuses and play the innocent victim so that our partner will back off. Unfortunately, this strategy is almost never successful. Our excuses just tell our partner that we don't take their concerns seriously and that we won't take responsibility for our mistakes. That's deep. Here's the question. Did you call Betty and Ralph to let them know that we're not coming tonight as you promised this morning? I'm going to urbanize this question. Hold on. Did you hit up Jamal and Shakina to let them know that we not coming through tonight like we told them? Defensive response. I was just too darn busy today. Darn. I'm going to say damn. I was just too damn busy today, woman. God damn, get off my back. I was just too darn busy today. As a matter of fact, you know just how busy my schedule was. Why didn't you just do it? This partner not only responds defensively, but they reverse blame in an attempt to make it the other partner's fault. Wow, that's deep. That's deep. How many of you either are currently or have been in a relationship where every time when you were in a similar scenario, you brought something up to your partner's attention and they tried to reverse it back on you? That's deep. Instead, a non-defensive response can express acceptance of responsibility, admission of fault, and understanding of your partner's perspective. Oops, I forgot. I should have asked you this morning to do it because I knew my day would be packed. That's my fault. Let me call them right now. Although it is perfectly understandable to defend yourself if you're stressed out and feeling attacked, this approach will not have this desired effect. Defensiveness will only escalate the conflict if the critical spouse does not back down or apologize. This is because defensiveness is really a way of blaming your partner, and it won't allow for healthy conflict management. That's deep. I would say that's probably the third horseman is probably the most difficult. I think criticism and contempt. Well, contempt is really, I think contempt is difficult to deal with because that's like the intangible thing. Like sometimes you're not really necessarily aware of contempt kind of brewing and stirring in that pot. Criticism, I think, turning criticism into a critique, I think it's a little bit easier. But defensiveness is really, really tough to deal with because it's just automatic. It's not a switch that we turn on. It kind of like just always happens. Here's the fourth horseman. It's stonewalling. The fourth horseman is stonewalling, which is usually a response to contempt. Stonewalling occurs when the listener withdraws from the interaction, shuts down, and simply stops responding to their partner. Rather than confronting the issues with their partner, people who stonewall can make evasive maneuvers such as tuning out, turning away, acting busy, or engaging in obsessive or distracting behaviors. It takes time for the negativity created by the first three horsemen to become overwhelming enough that stonewalling becomes an understandable, quote unquote, out. But when it does, it frequently becomes a bad habit. And unfortunately, stonewalling isn't easy to stop. It is a result of feeling physiologically flooded. And when we stonewall, we may not even be in a physiological state where we can discuss things rationally. If you feel like you're stonewalling during a conflict, stop the discussion and ask your partner to take a break. All right, I'm feeling too angry to keep talking about this. Can we please take a break and come back to it in a bit? It'll be easier to work through this after I've calmed down. Then take 20 minutes to do something alone that soothes you. Read a book or magazine, take a walk, go for a run. Really just do anything that helps to stop feeling flooded. And then return to the conversation once you feel ready. Here are the antidotes to the four horsemen. Being able to identify the four horsemen in your conflict discussions is a necessary first step to eliminating them. But this knowledge is not enough. To drive away destructive communication and conflict patterns, you must replace them with healthy, productive ones. Fortunately, each horseman has a proven positive behavior that will counteract negativity. Click here to learn about the antidotes. Okay, so it kind of wants you to go here. Let's see. If this article ain't too long, I'll read this one too. It's a little long, y'all. It's a little long. Do I want to read this? Let's see. I'm sorry, y'all. Just bear with me here. I'm just looking at this article in its entirety. Yeah, it's kind of long, guys. So it's not a long read, but it's long for the podcast. But this link was directly embedded in the previous link, and it's the Four Horsemen, the antidotes. So I do recommend reading this. I haven't even read it yet, so I'm going to take a look at it and just looking over it pretty briefly. It looked pretty juicy, so I'm going to go check that out. In the meantime, everybody, let's get to the poll results. So I'm going to take a quick break, get settled, put everything up, and I'll be right back on the other side with the results of the poll. Okay, gang, I'm back. So, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I did a poll on Facebook and Twitter pertaining to when you were first exposed to rock or country that you actually enjoyed. Now, this is for those of us who primarily grew up listening to hip hop and R&B, maybe some jazz, some classical, whatever the case may be, but primarily you grew up listening to what you liked. And when was the first time you were exposed to rock or country that you actually enjoyed? For me, it was middle school. So here we go. Here are the results of the poll. Let's start with Facebook. Facebook, I asked the question, were you exposed to rock or country that you actually enjoyed before high school? And 83% of you said yes. So a lot of you were in the same boat as I was. 83% said they enjoyed rock or rap, or at least rock or country, or at least got exposed to it before high school. Now, I think that's huge because it kind of opens things up for you and it makes you a little bit more open or flexible to trying things outside of your box. And that could also permeate to other areas of your life, not necessarily just music. But look at that. A lot of you were in the same boat as I. 17% said no. And unfortunately, because Facebook polls are yes or no questions, it's tough for me to get into the nitty gritty of those 17% that said no. I don't know if it was high school. I don't know if it was college. Who knows? It could be they just don't like rock or country to this day. And that's okay. That's fine. However, I will say some of my favorite songs are rock songs. Now, let's go on over to Twitter. So Twitter goes, again, I posed the same question, but this time I was a little bit more specific. I asked, when or where were you first exposed? And again, it was middle school or junior high, high school, college, or via a friend in social function. And 20% said high school, which was a little bit higher than that 13%. but 80% of people said middle school. So it was the same deal on Twitter too. A lot of us got exposed during middle school. Now, Charles, who has always been a huge supporter of the show, mentioned on Instagram that he was first exposed during Rock Band 1. And I totally agree. So there were some video games that came out on certain systems, and namely, but the more popular system was probably PlayStation, but it was out on Xbox as well, and some Nintendo consoles as well. But it was a game called Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And I know for a lot of gamers, especially those of us in urban communities and dense urban communities, we gaming is a segue to a lot of different things. Gaming can get us into anime. Gaming can get us into sports. Because I'll tell you this, I was playing NFL 2K football and Madden football way before I actually could sit down and enjoy a football game. But I like an actual football game, a televised football game. Um, and sticking with the topic at hand here, gaming was the big thing that opened up rock or alternative rock or some country music for a lot of us in dense urban environments, because it wasn't just about music now. It was about winning. It was about getting the high score. It was about social gatherings and getting all your friends together. It was about who can hit that drum break or who can knock out that guitar solo. It was about who could hit that note on the microphone. And when you bring all that together, you also go, you know what? This song by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs is actually pretty damn good. Maps is my S word. That's my jammy jam. But a lot of other bands around that time, especially in the early 2000s, were huge, and had a dominant presence on those playlists. And we're talking Paramore, we're talking All American Rejects, we're talking Green Day. A lot of those early 2000s bands that made their way onto Rock Band. And some of those bands have been out in the 90s, but they were, added to that playlist in Rock Band and Guitar Hero. Now, me personally, I preferred Rock Band over Guitar Hero, but Guitar Hero was great. And then later on down the line, you even had a game called DJ Hero, which was pretty cool. And these games helped to usher us into a new genre of music that maybe we wouldn't have experienced as early as we did until we got to college, maybe, and we were going to college parties, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's what it was. Surprising results. I was surprised that many people got exposed to rock or country that they enjoyed before high school. I thought I was kind of the exception to the rule. Just to share that story really quickly, then I'll let you all go. I had a friend who was just a little bit different, not in a bad way. He was a little bit older, so he was exposed to a few things, and he had friends who lived in the suburbs, so he would go out with these friends every now and again for weekends or weeks at a time and then come back. And he introduced me to Lincoln Park. One time I was over his house, and he actually also got me into real-time strategy games, or RTS for short, and I was playing a game called StarCraft, and he had Lincoln Park on in the background, and I really liked it. And eventually, I started to associate Lincoln Park with him and with the game that we were playing. But eventually, I kind of broke out of that and just explored the rest of Lincoln Park's catalog and where else they were featured in. And then, just like Charles, I would say Rock Band. Oh, you know what? And I'm sorry, I misspoke. Charles actually said Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which I agree. I know for a lot of people it was Madden and their EA tracks, specifically Madden '06, when Madden kind of monopolized the football world and there was no other football games around. Madden had a lot of tracks, and Madden '06 specifically had Fall Out Boy on it, and it had Dance Dance on it, and that's you can see what I'm saying now. For Chuck, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and for many of us, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, for many of us, Rock Band, for many of us, Madden and the tracks that they have. And for those of you who aren't gamers, if you may not understand, for games like Rock Band you are intentionally selecting the song and you're playing it, right? So you could potentially play a bunch of songs that you don't like and you're just trying to get past them because you're trying to continue the story. For Tony Hawk, on the other hand, you're actually doing other things. You're skating as a skater. So you're on rollerblades or you're on a skateboard and you are listening to these songs in the background. And then eventually, when you go to a certain stage, that song always plays. So eventually you like it. Also mentioning Madden, you spend a lot of your time in Madden in the actual game menus, whether it's adjusting settings, getting your playbook together, looking at your schedule. If you're playing franchise mode, you're making certain coaching moves and roster moves and such. And these songs are playing in the background and you hear them constantly. And back in those days, only certain songs, you only can get but so many licenses for songs. You only can get but so many songs cleared. So eventually, even if there's a track of like 32 to 48 songs, however many they have on there, after a while you start to hear those songs and you're playing Madden. Madden comes out every August. So even if you only keep it for the football season, you're playing it from at least August to February. So you are constantly hearing these games for 6 months straight? I'm sorry, these songs for 6 months straight, and can have a huge impact on your music catalog. So there you have it. So keep an eye out for this week's poll. Again, it'll come Friday or Saturday. And even beyond that, I am going to be posting videos as well, just to get you all's feedback on a few different areas. But this was fun. Again, shout out to everybody who participated in the poll. I thought it was super dope, to say the least. And you all have definitely motivated me and encouraged me to keep this thing going. So hopefully we can keep the participation up. In the meantime, everybody, thank you for sticking around with me another week, another hour in the books. And hopefully I'll be talking to you soon. And as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.